Everyone, welcome back to the course. In this lecture, the course we're going to be going over scrolling, the concept of scrolling, and making a scrolling game in Scratch. I'm going to first go to the new project at the top right of my stuff folder, and we'll just get right into it. It's going to be a little bit of a step up from the previous projects, but if you're following along, it shouldn't be a big deal at all. Basically, we're just going to be working with something that's actually not natively implemented into Scratch. The scrolling concept is some of the scrolling variables like scroll X and scroll Y that are commonly used. Scrolling is a very commonly used concept, not only in Scratch but in programming in general, and it's good to know. Although it's not, again, it's not natively in Scratch, but it's something we can add or artificially kind of simulate within Scratch. So we'll go over all that, and I'm just going to name my project Scrolling Demo. You can go ahead and name whatever you want. Again, I'd recommend you make your project side by side along these lectures to get the full value out of them. I'm going to go ahead and go I'm going to make my backdrop first and then kind of demonstrate what a platformer is. I'm going to demonstrate what a scrolling platformer is, and kind of transition the focus of the lecture between those two. Of course, the focus is going to be on scrolling, but I want to demonstrate what a platform is in the first place, just in general. So I'm just going to make like a generic one. Talk about the controls, concepts, things like that we're going to be using. So one quick little tip here, whenever you're doing sky for art, what I'd like to do is I'll do like a top-down gradient like this. I want my top color to be a little bit darker than my bottom color, especially if I'm working with blues here. I want there to be good contrast as well. So I'm going to make this first blue a little bit less dark, so something like this. Alright, I like that. Notice how my bitmaps makes filling a little bit easier oftentimes. I want to have a good contrast ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a darker green. I'm thinking something like this. I'm going to extend it horizontally, and I'm just going to place it at the bottom somewhere where it seems fit. I'm checking to see if there's any gaps on the sides, so that there's no blue seeping through, and it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my code for my sprite. I'm going to go ahead and go when clicked. I don't want to actually position him, have an initial position for him. I'll just set him right there. Um, so it looks like x negative 187, y 95. So of course, if I click the green flag, it'll go right there. I want to actually put in some movement form real quick. I'll just go when it clicked. I want to have my forever loop and my two if conditional statements inside there. I want to do if and if. And this is for left and right movement. So um, I can use arrow keys for this lecture. Of course, you can use WASD, which are some keys that you might be familiar with if you're into PC gaming. Basically, it's just more. It's kind of an alternative to the arrow keys, but I'm just going to use arrow keys for now. I'll just go left or and right arrow. Of course, you can go A and D, then move left and right if you'd like. I'll just give you left and right for this tutorial, and I'm going to go ahead and go change X by 5 and change X by negative 5. Again, we're messing with the horizontal axis here, but I'll do increments of 5 to start with, and we can just kind of scale from there. But, of course, negative 5 goes left, so we want to go kind of move backwards, if you will, in this 2D plane here, and I'll just go change X by 5, so we're going forward, and we're going right if we're holding right, so I'll just start my project here. And just like that, he glides right across the screen based on which key I press. So that's looking good there. So that's pretty much a platform right there, except for oftentimes there'll be like platforms, like actual platforms, hence the name, to go ahead and jump on, and even maybe coins to pick up, some kind of portal or something to progress you to the next level. Analogy some of you guys might be familiar with is Mario, where you can go ahead and jump around platforms, pick up coins, dodge obstacles, navigating your way to a flag that progresses you to the following level. So it's kind of that type of thing. It's kind of the default concept of platformers, if you will. But if you notice, if we move around here, we're really kind of confined to this 480 pixel wide screen. But what we want to do is we want to make the screen actually scroll with the platformer, if you will. So before I actually get into programming that, I want to do a little bit more stuff with this just general platformer here before doing the scrolling stuff. But I just want to kind of throw that concept out there. I'm going to go ahead and get another forever loop, put it under my when click script right there. Go ahead and if, and instead of space press, I know that's a common jump key oftentimes for some games, I'm just going to go up arrow since we're kind of confined to the arrow keys already in my case. I'll just go ahead and go, I want to go repeat 10, change Y by 10, so it's a little bit of an animated effect there, a little bit. We'll go change Y by 10, of course, and then I want to actually go wait until. Actually, before I get into that, just real quick, one thing you're going to be working with a lot in platformers is this touch and color value. So we'll just not forget about the dropper tool here, since you're going to want to maybe pick specific colors from your program without actually tinkering with these three numbers right here for color, saturation, and brightness respectively. So I'd just go ahead and go with this dropper tool like I just did there. So back to our wait until function, if I just go ahead and pop that in as our parameter, what this will actually do is it'll just jump. It'll kind of hover up with a very, very small delay, just kind of a default to the API right there. And he'll just like go up, and then it'll wait until he's touching the ground again to jump. That way, um, that way he can't like double jump in midair. Unless we wanted to, we can make him double jump if we want to. In this case, we can make him jump and only be able to jump once he's actually rested on the ground. Another thing I want to do is I want to go when clicked forever. I want to do another two if conditionals. Oh, and then one more thing. You might be wondering why I'm not putting this up arrow inside the same script as my left and right arrow. Well, that's because I want to separate my movement so that I can simultaneously do certain things. For example, if I'm moving right or if I'm moving left, I want to be able to jump while I'm doing that, at least in my case. If I were to put this up arrow with my left and right, I'd actually not be able to do that. I'd actually jump, and then I wouldn't be able to move left or right while I'm in the air or while I'm coming down or anything like that. But if I were to do it separately, I don't have that problem. However, you might be wondering, well, why don't I just do three separate scripts for all of them, like a separate for left and right? Well, the reason I'm combining left and right is because that way there won't be like visible glitches or things like that. If I start adding animations or things like that, and make my movement more advanced. In this case, you won't really see it. You just won't be able to. You'll just be kind of trying to move in the same direction or move in opposite directions at the same time. It just confuses the program a little bit, but it'll cause some major glitches if you actually go ahead and separate these. So it's sometimes just troubleshooting and making sure your scripts don't overlap. And sometimes will just happen on accident. It's no big deal. You just gotta kind of finagle with this a little bit. And I'll just go ahead and go when clicked if I want to do some more touching values here. So I'll just pull out two because I have two if conditionals each take one of these types of parameters. I'm actually gonna look at my ground here again. So I'm just gonna dropper tool the same shade of green. I don't need to do it again. I can actually just duplicate it. Remember, right click and then duplicate. I'll just pass it to my if conditional parameters, and now that I've got that, what I want to do here is I want to do, well, if we're touching the green, what I want is I want to change the y, change our y value, let's say 1.5, and then if we're not touching the green, I want to go ahead and change it. I'm just going to try and do a little bit more steep of a value, -3, and I'll explain why. Oh, did not mean to do that. Alright, so we're shaking a little bit, but our jumping works great. We kind of have this gravity effect. We are kind of vibrating in place a little bit. I mean, there's things we can do about that, but I just want to go over what this script is first, or what this is really doing here. So the beauty of this is that, of course, if we were to separate these into two different scripts, these would be running simultaneously, and since this is decreasing at a greater value than this is increasing, then we're going to have problems. It'll just slowly sink into the ground. However, if we combine these, it'll be doing one or the other. So that if we're touching the ground, then we're just going to change our y value, but if we're not, then we're going to change our y value down. So we're changing up if we are touching the ground, we're changing down if we aren't. And so what this effect is creating here is it'll jump up and it'll just be brought back down by this other condition right here. And I mean, there's other ways to do this that don't involve as much shaking in place, but this is kind of the simplest way to do it functionally. And of course, if we jump, I don't even have to do anything. They'll automatically lower me here because it's all being done right here. So I'll just jump up by about y100 in increments of 10, and with a quantity of 10. And I'll just wait until we hit the ground again, so I can't jump again. I can't double jump. And I can move while jumping, and I don't ever actually fall past the ground or get stuck or anything. It's great. However, there's one problem. Going off the screens, well, going off the screens is one problem. Since I can't, I'm kind of confined to the space again, which is why if we scroll, we have a lot more room. Actually, as much room as we want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about scrolling. Before I do that, I want to talk about terrain. So there's a concept called terrain. And I don't mean terrain just like mountains or grasslands or things like that. I mean terrain in terms of the technical term for terrain, which is basically a certain stage in the backdrop. So um, if you think about some games, it'll be like, this is just a sliver of what's actually on the map, but this is just what the camera is panning at. So this is kind of the starting part, as you'll see. So I'll just call this terrain 0, and I'll elaborate on this more. what I mean by this, but I'll just go ahead and go train 0. And what I want to do is I want to have a hill. Yeah, I'll do a hill actually. Something like this. Looks good to me. And once we got that, I want to get a separate backdrop. I'll call it terrain 1. And for this, like many things in programming, we start at 0 rather than 1, and I'll explain why once you get to the actual scrolling part of things. Actually, better yet, what I want to do, I can't do that. Okay, I was gonna undo some stuff and redo some stuff, but that's all right. Here's what I want to do. I want to redo some of this. You know, maybe I don't have to do that. Let's just make a second hill just to make things simple and just kind of demonstrate this a little bit better. Alright, I'll make a larger hill. And I want I'm just trying to think of how I want to do this. Okay, so I have two backdrops for terrain. One is terrain 0, one is terrain 1. Terrain 0 is the starting one, and terrain 1 is the following one. And whenever we start the project, I want the default one to be at terrain 1. Or sorry, terrain 0. So I want it to be whenever we scroll, it'll kind of transition between both backdrops. The problem is we cannot have two backdrops half and half on at the same time. It's only one or the other. It's only one backdrop on at the same time. So we have to do is we cannot work with backdrops at all. So I'm just gonna stop the program. I'm just gonna delete everything. And if you start making scrolling platforms, start doing your backdrops, in the backdrop editor, which is the wrong place again, you can use the backpack tool to transfer them to sprites, so it's no worries there. I did in that case, but alright. Looks like there's some stuff I missed. It's a little bit hard to see. I'm just looking right over there. I think I got everything, so I'll just call it a day. Gonna move the cat. Okay, looks like I got everything. Okay, so now that we've done this, I just want to make some sprites, and then you're gonna name these sprites like terrain. You're not gonna want to do separate costumes either. You're gonna want to do separate sprites. Okay, so terrain 0 and terrain 1. Before I even get the terrain 1, I want to get my terrain 0, so I can just kind of copy paste the same format, if you will. What I mean by that is I'm just gonna go ahead and do my sky again. I'm gonna do it the same way I did previously. Something like this. So I'm gonna make the first color a little bit darker. Let's try this bitmap. Boom. Alright, like that. I'm going to go ahead and get my ground again. I want to do a darker green so there's better contrast with the sky, of course. And once I've got something like that, I'll just work with that. So what I want to do is I want to get this to, first I want to get this to x0, y0. Another thing I want to do is I want them to be in the very back layer. So for example, when clicked, forever go to back layer. And so my back layer function is again in our looks category. So go, or actually instead of doing that, we can just go to back layer. This way okay, forget about the cat for a second since he's not programmed to work with this new backdrop, but basically what this does is it makes it to where the cat's in front and the backdrop's in back. Well, it doesn't necessarily make the cat in front, but at least makes the background in the very back. So in fact, why don't we just do this real quick and go when clicked, and we can also go when clicked forever, go to the front layer for our cat. So this is where our layers are going to work just fine. I want to real quickly swap out with our dropper tool the correct shades of green for our 3 touching color value, or the parameters for our 3 touching color value. So now we're all good to go there. We're still a little bit shaky, but everything seems to work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this terrain 0 and make this our terrain 1 real quick, and I'm just going to go ahead and go. What I want to do for this is pretty much going to want to, where is it? Maybe make like a hill or something just to kind of show contrast between the backgrounds, if you will. Yeah, we'll just do something like this. Okay, so we can ignore this for now. What I want to do is I want to make a public variable. It's very important. It's public called scrollx. Oftentimes what people do is they'll do something like capital S scroll and then like capital X. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I'll just go all lowercase scrollx. So I want to hide this. I don't need to hide it for now. I mean, there's really no point. I'll get rid of my variable though. Don't need that. So now we have something called scrollx. what I want to do actually, rather than change my X value, I want to change my scroll X value. So I want to go to scroll X, oops, scroll X by 5, change scroll X by -5. Okay, I'm just gonna swap these out pretty much, and I'll just go ahead and call that a day. I want to set scroll X, let's just say 60 as a default, and forget about this for now. So now we're not really using actual motion. We're just using scroll X for X. Well, we're using our Y values within the motion category. We're using scroll X in the variables category for our horizontal movement for now. I mean, there's something called scroll Y where we would do all of the variables, but I'll get to that later here soon. I'm just actually gonna name my, just since I'm naming things, and I'll just name this cat. Or you do like character or player or whatever you want. But so the interesting about this is what we can do is you can go ahead and go to our backdrop. So you can go and click forever. Go to, actually we're gonna show first. Forever, go to, and there's actually a pretty specific way of doing this. There's not a lot of wiggle room. When I go to our X, plus times, okay. Want to go to the scroll X plus 480, and if you remember, 480 is the total width in pixels, so it's negative 240 and positive 240 for a total of 480. It's 480 times 0, so it's terrain 0, and that's based on the number. So terrain 1 would be 480 times 1, and so on. And then Y would just be 0, since we want to be on Y0. I'm actually going to hide this for now, as in hide terrain 1. So I'll just click that button right there. So that's pretty cool. So now that we've got this, we can go ahead and replicate this. And there will be bugs, so don't worry about that right now. But there will be bugs. So go to scroll X times 1, something like this. Actually, I'll just go ahead and show this, because once we run this, there'll be less problems. So what you'll notice is that we're actually scrolling now. We're moving this, but I'm going right. I'm pressing my right key and I'm going left. But if I'm going left, by holding my left key, I'm going right, and by holding my right key, I'm going left. That's not what I want. So what I'm going to do is, it's actually invert. It's a little bit weird. So you just switch these. That's what you do. Always, whenever you're working with scroll, you always do the opposite. So now I'm actually going left whenever I'm holding left. I'm actually going right whenever I'm holding right. So now I'm actually scrolling. And I have so now I'm working with 840 pixel scene whenever I only have a 480 pixel field of view, if you will, which is the term we would use for that. Of course, there's a little bit of a problem. There's this white space here. And of course, we can keep expanding on the right. We can keep expanding outwards. We can also keep expanding on the left. But maybe we want to like set our scroll X a little bit like further over here, so that way we're not cut out here, and then maybe just have like a brick wall or something, so we can't pass there. We can do something like that. Another thing that you can do is just, that's just the backdrop we're seeing right there, so we can just set this to the color black. Like, oh, I don't want to do gradient, I just want to do a solid fill, boom. And then if we're touching black, then it'll just kind of push us back. And then of course if I go to the other side, if I scroll all the way over there, then it'll just be black. So I can just go ahead and avoid moving there. But since my default scroll X position is actually 60, which is actually right over here, what I want to do is I want to go like negative 60. Because again, it's inverted, so that'll actually push me forward to the right. So now I'm actually able to scroll a little bit better, which is pretty cool. So we can also kind of move along with the hill without actually jumping, just because of the way this kind of set up. I'm actually gonna get rid of these change X values for now, just because I don't actually need them. We're not actually changing any X value really at all. In fact, we're not moving this cat at all. It's just an illusion of him moving. It's really the backdrop moving, which is also really cool. Of course, you can make both move if you're working with more advanced platformers. But what I want to do is, if we're touching this color, and of course, if I have this any other place except for my walls, I don't want to do this because that'll cause bugs. But I'm going to go and click forever. If touching this black color here, I'll go touching value, and I'll just set my parameter to this black right here, which should just be like 000 or something like that. Yeah, it is 000 right there. For my brightest saturation, or for my color saturation brightness, I'll just go ahead and set them back. So I'll just go ahead and go, move. I'm leaning towards move in this case, because that way it's like direction neutral. What I do, because that way it's like direction neutral, for example. say I'm moving left, and then it would just push me back. But if I'm moving this way, I can't just go change x by 5 or change x by -5 because I could be hitting either side. Um, so one way to combat this is just by doing like gray or something, and then just splitting it like right in half. So what I do is I would actually just clear this whole thing first, probably. So I'll just go ahead and clear this out. I'll just have a line go right down the middle. It doesn't really matter what color the line is since you're never going to see it. I mean, there's better ways to do this, but for the sake of simplicity and time efficiency, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Alright, then I'm just going to do a one color here, off to the side. Yep. So I'll just go ahead and go 0, 0, 0, and then for this side, I'll just go ahead and go like 0, 0, and then 1 or something. So, although it really doesn't look like a different color than most people, it'll be recognized as a different color by the program, which is what we want. So if we go ahead and go back here, if touching 0, 0, 1, we'll move a certain way. If we're touching 0, 0, 0, we'll move a different way, just like so. So we'll actually go ahead and go move change x by 5, so if we're leaning too far to the left, and if we're leaning too far to the right, we can just change x by -5. So let's just go ahead and look at this in action, start our whole program up. And now we can actually keep scrolling, which is a problem. We'll fix that in a second. But at least it'll like push us back, so we can't really go into there. So if I just go ahead and go back, I am still kind of stuck in this place right here. Also, another thing is my scroll X. I'm not going to change the position on screen, maybe not change the scroll X, but change the position on screen because I'm kind of in the middle. I like to be a little bit further to the left, so I'll just go ahead and, no, easier way to do this is just set this as 0 or something. Okay, now maybe it would be like this. Alright, no, here's what I'll do. I'll set it back to -60, but I want to have a set X to, what do we want our X value to be? Still just go to, let's say y -105, x we want to go -160. So like this. So now pretty much good to there. It'll just push us back. We don't really want to do that. We want to change our scroll X as well alongside it. So if we just go ahead and do this, we're gonna have less problems. Which will actually break the whole thing because we can't use them simultaneously. So if we do this, it won't work as well either. And that's because it's trying to go ahead and push us in the opposite direction, so we have to flip it again. So if we're going too far left, it'll push us right, and if we're going too far right, it'll push us left. One last time, let's go ahead and test this out. Alright, well, it looks like it's not working too well. Of course, we can actually go ahead and go past where we want to be. So if I'm touching this color, which I am, I'm actually not being pushed in the way I want to go. So let's just try this right side real quick. Of course, I have the same problem there. And it's really, if I were to turn off this script, now I can't move, but it's still not moving me back. So why is this? Well, here's what we can do. Alright, so if we take a look at this, if we go ahead and go back to here, we are touching the color. Of course, if we pull this out, it says false. That's because it just pushed us back since it wasn't in the, this wasn't running. So like, for example, this will say true, but if this value isn't even past this conditional, it'll just like push us away from the wall anyway. So just to demonstrate this, if I go ahead and pull out a copy of this, it does say true, so it recognizes that we're touching it. Of course, if we actually pull this out of here, it will actually not fail to push us out. So it does, there's some weird things, and this is actually a bug in Scratch that this doesn't work, but it does, so this way we don't get thrown off the edge, which is pretty cool. So now that we're not getting thrown off the edge, there's still the problem over here. And actually, it's so buggy that you can't move left once you're off the screen here, and that's just a common bug that happens with Scroll X. Oftentimes people have something different, such as like a portal or something at the end here, so that way they don't run into this problem. So this problem's harder to fix than running off on the left side of the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a terrain 2. What I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to design it so that there'll be another hill, because why not? I'm just going to have like this kind of a checkpoint area, maybe like a flag or something on top of this hill, like so. I want to do a flag as well. Let's go ahead and do a nice little red flag here. Something like that, and then I'll just go ahead and fill it in. You know what, this is probably going to take some time if I just do it like that, because there's a gradient, so there's all these different shades, so probably better if I just use my brush tool and just carefully fill this in without going over the edges. Of course, now that I say that, I'm probably going to end up going over the edges, but I was never great at coloring between the lines. If I just go ahead and finish filling this in, okay, great, so now we have this. Now that we have our terrain 2, of course we want to actually set this one to times 2, since remember, it's terrain 2, we want to set that correctly. So, what we can do with this is we can now, let's see. Okay. Let's go ahead and do it to where if we're touching. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this flagpole a different color. So that way, I'll just go ahead and go brown. Brown's a little bit annoying to make. Usually if you go orange and then just shut down the brightest a little bit, you'll get a nice shade of brown there. So, oops, didn't mean to fill that in. But, there we go. And, now that we've got this, if we're touching this color, they'll pretty much just be we win. So, or at least that's what I'll set up for. So just check to make sure we can even scroll to that point. Which we can, great. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do if touching this color. And we can't go over, so there's really no avoiding it. I'll just go ahead and go if we're touching this color. When clicked, forever if. Touching color, I'll just pull out my dropping tool, go ahead and select this. Brown right here. And then I'm just going to, I don't know, broadcast you win. Alright. Something like this. And then of course, what I'll do for this, I'll just have a backdrop called, I don't know, I'm actually going to name this void. I'm going to get a new one. Let's see what I can do here. I'll just go colorful city. I like the way this one looks. I'll just name it you win. Alright, and then what we'll do for this is we'll just get a high contrast text. I'm going to go pixel since that's my favorite font and Scratch, and I'll just go you win. Something like this. Click out, drag, and place it somewhere like this. Alright, I like the way that looks. So now I've got this, I'll just go ahead and, let's see, when I receive, I want to hide whenever we receive you win. That's weird. Oh, here's the problem. I need to duplicate, then drag it in. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to drag this into everything here. And not only do I want to hide, I want to go ahead and switch the backdrop and stop all. Where's my stop? Here it is. Alright. Oh, also, real quick before I forget, I want to go ahead and specify the backdrop should start here. Should start at void. I might already have that. Yeah, I already do. So I don't need that. Okay. For some reason I forgot I need to do that. Okay. So boom, and then I'll be set to UN, and let's just hide scroll X so we don't need it. I'll go ahead and actually make a script that does that for us anyways. Whenever we start. Okay, so now that we've got this. Oh, I guess I should probably make the cat show, right? You kind of need the cat, need to see the cat moving. Very cool. So now that we're scrolling, you'll notice that there's a little bit of an issue right here. That's because in Scratch, the sprites that are showing, but also quote off screen, if you will, since again Scratch scrolling is not really meant to be done within Scratch's engine. Although it's very much possible, it's even talked about in the Scratch wikis, is just so commonly done. There's actually kind of this issue here, and oftentimes what people do, there's ways around this, but they're often really complicated ways that we'll likely get into much later in the course. I mean, I'll just go ahead and do um, black bars, which is what people usually do, and they'll make them as slim as they possibly can. Of course, it looks like black bars happen to cause problems because um, my cat is actually going to react to black based some of the scripts it has. So I'll just I'll make it a different color. I'll just go to make this something that's like similar but not quite. It's like this. And then I'll just go ahead and go duplicate this. Okay. So now I can just go ahead and go copy paste. I got myself another version of these. And that should be about good. So if I just go ahead and go forever. If I go forever to x0, y0, and that's tab to easily switch between parameters, by the way, is what you press. We don't really have that cutoff problem. It's pretty much exactly where it needs to be to avoid any problems. And one more thing to ensure that this always works well. I know the backdrops always go to back. We also want to make sure these always go to the front. Something that another thing that some people do is they'll just like make it to where these bars always cover off the black part of the screen, and then it will just be if you hit the bars, then there'll be a problem or something like that. So it's really just however you choose to do it. But I'll go ahead and work with this just for now, and you can have like little colors, like maybe a lava pool here that will restart the project if you hop in it or things like that. So you can add obstacles, you can add enemies, you can add uh, pretty advanced levels. There's also something called scroll Y, which is the exact same concept except for as well that Y-axis. So if you're making a plane game or a rocket game, and you're making the rocket take off, then you probably use scroll Y so that you can navigate through the sky and then eventually get to the moon, which is probably going to be on like terrain 11 or 12, right? But it's the exact same concept, same method. So I want to talk about static objects, objects that don't move. So let's say we have this apple here. I'm just gonna pick on an apple for now. Let's say I want this apple to like stay here. So all I have to do is I'll just go when clicked, show, and then forever go to X. I don't know what the scroll X for that would be. Let's actually check. That would be about what? Well, let's see. This is like scroll X. Oh, we'll just say scroll X negative 500 or something like that. Negative 600 maybe. Um, well, let's see. If we want the scroll X to be 600, we want the X to be the scroll X. Oh, here's what we can do. We just go scroll X plus a certain number. And it'll say Y39. I was probably gonna be a few bucks with this, but I'll just figure it out. Okay, the Y is a little bit too high. Something that's like what, Y negative 130 or something. Alright, make this a little bit higher, I guess. something like this, just a tad bit higher. Okay, that's too high. I want it to be touching the ground at least. My F123 does the trick. Now all I'm going to do is just set this a little bit further back. This is all we would do for static objects. So objects that are just kind of there. And then maybe something happens when you press this out. Maybe this could be an obstacle or an enemy. But for static objects, we don't do multiplication for this like we would. We literally just set it to scroll x plus a certain value. So now it's just always right there, which is really cool. Or if we wanted to put it over here, we just kind of calculate that, like say, well, this is based on the center of the screen, really. So you kind of ignore where the cat is. So this is scroll x negative 300. So if where's this? Where would the center of this? Let's say we want it right here. You find where you want it to be, and then look at the center of the screen and try and line that up exactly with the center. Let's say right here. So let's say I want it right here. So that'd be about negative 650. Let's just see if that's correct. And of course, we're actually not doing it's actually not going to be negative here. It's a little bit weird, and I know it is negative here, but you know, Scrollx does some weird things with inverting stuff. But there you go. So we have this. Very cool. And while this is all good, I want to just do a little bit of animation stuff here real quick. So I want to do something like this. I'm not gonna mess with this, but I will mess with this. I'll go L and I'll go R. Now L will just be a flipped version of R. So what I mean by that, select, flip. And I want a default costume. I want to go ahead and, actually I don't want to do that. I want to go something like this. Oh, why am I not pointing 90? Okay. I'll probably accidentally click something and the motion categories are scrolling past, but anyways, might as well set our rotation style all good to go as well. We don't want to do left right because that'll cause problems if we're doing this based on direction. We'll do R as our default, and then we'll just go switch based on there's so much way we're going, right? We'll kind of turn before going over. And of course, we can add more realistic gravity. We can add better animations, but we do have all this going for us, so this is actually really cool. This is a full-on scrolling game. We're just trying to get to the flag. I'm just gonna communicate that to the player who would actually be playing this. Let's save this. But this is really scrolling for you in a nutshell. This project is a game in which the player must navigate to the red flag in order to win. This demonstrates the capabilities of the scrolling game mechanic, which allows more content to be fit onto the 2D plane while the camera scrolls with the focal point, which is often the player, and in this case the cat. So that's pretty much what we're doing. The focal point is basically just the main point, and usually in a graphical setting. Pretty much the main focus of everything. So in this case it's the cat, of course, so that's what we're moving. That's what's kind of scrolling the camera. And then it gives an effect of moving the cat alongside the background. But really, we're just moving the background. Left arrow, move left. Right arrow, move right. Up arrow, we want the up arrow, the jumps. We're moving up, cool. And then that's really it. That's pretty much it. So, just trying to think of anything. We didn't use any. I guess I'll just say all art is from the Scratch. I mean, you don't really have to say this, but it's nice to the people over at Scratch. And I'll just go ahead and say developed by Udemy course tutorial. I'll just say date. I don't know, what is it? 11. I have to check now, don't I? I think it's the 3rd. Let me verify that it is the 3rd. And boom, there we go. I've got a full-on project here. I'll share this out to the studio, all that as usual. I really hope you guys enjoyed and learned something, and I think we'll have some fun applying this whole scrolling thing later on. And so, Thank you guys for watching again. Thank you guys for paying attention and following with me. And I hope you guys just enjoy this and expand this onto maybe your own really cool game. Now that you understand how to scroll. And there's a lot of potential to scrolling. You can make some really advanced and cool platformers. That said, have a good one, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.